In Puerto Rico, there are insects and things flying around. I don't even know the names or what they are, or things are out there in the jungle, in the bush area that I live, that are crisscrossing. And sometimes I see something that looks like a butterfly, a beetle, and some kind of worm. Or hits the wall right behind me. Because at night, I'm in the balcony outside, and I turn on a light. Forget it. When you turn on that light, you know, there's always the mosquitoes, but these other things are flying around. I finally have to get back indoors and read inside because it gets weird, you know. I just don't know what it is, you know. And they hit the wall and they go, I say, what's that? What's that? And plus at nighttime, there's never silence in Puerto Rico. We have something called a coqui. And the night is always, and it's a tod, a little tod. And it's actually the mating call of this little tod. The females just go to sleep, but this is the mating call. So we have to put up with all these horny little creatures singing to the females all night. Millions of them, you know. And and the mountains are green with mango trees on them and coconut palms. I just met in Banff, the mountains there, which are like ice cubes, you know, tall ice cubes. But they're quite beautiful, interesting contrasts. I like to live it, see it, feel it. We're always looking at the horizon in Puerto Rico because weird things come out of there like hurricanes, you know? And you have to be alert and aware of when one of these things are coming because they are something else. Like when those comes, it's mambo time, forget it. And speaking with some of the old people, when this big hurricane called George was coming, they were telling me, I got this next poem from them. And then, all kind of wires all around me. Have to watch out, que no me vaya a electrocutar. Anyway, I gathered this poem from them. Problems with hurricanes. A campesino looked at the air and told me, with hurricanes it's not the wind or the noise or the water. I'll tell you, he said, it's the mangoes, avocados, green plantains, plátanos, and bananas flying to town like projectiles. How would your family feel if they had to tell the generations that you got killed by a flying banana? Death by drowning has honor. If the wind picked you up and slammed you against a mountain boulder, this will not carry shame, but to suffer a mango smashing your skull or a plantain hitting your temple at 70 miles per hour, that is the ultimate disgrace. The campesino takes off his hat as a sign of respect towards the fury of the wind and says, don't worry about the noise. Don't worry about the water. Don't worry about the wind. If you're going out, beware of mangoes and all such beautiful, sweet things. I drink more water than an avocado tree. Tranquilos, ¿están bien? Tranquilo, so I can feel your vibes. Don't get me nervous, you know? Hot thought. The idea that something called a greenhouse effect is at work enhances when you Caribbean encompass. Would it get hotter in the valley of Caguas just for an instant of thought, Calderon, or suddenly more yet, Guamo, where they say it never rains, even ice in the freezer loses its stance? Is it going to get hotter than a mid-October Ponce afternoon? Will we reach the point where our flesh tenderizes and slowly cooks in the air? Will we see our skin slide off our bones as we walk across the plaza, making a last attempt to get to the ice cream vendor before they both melt? The face without makeup. Pictograph this: if we awoke one day, let's say tomorrow, and all the oceans were dried up, every last drop. You can go out and walk on the beds of the ocean, stare out into the swirls of new landscape, the whole visual for eye and telescope, binoculars catch the sight of 1 trillion tons of sea creatures doing the jerk, octopus and whale, shark and sardine, down there sunbathing, posted as if in a fish market. Then you see that the earth is not round, that it is more like clay fashioned by Salvador Dali. Let's go to New York, because I'm a Latin from Manhattan. Lower East Side, Spanish Harlem, two of my countries there. Anyway, I've been reading this poem in the United States to some high school kids about 2 or 3 years ago, and I said, Eisenhower. They were like this. Who? Nobody knew who it was, you know. And I said, well, he was just a president of the United States. And I wrote this poem because it was during Eisenhower's administration that we migrated to New York City. In November, what did we know? That was like, boom, boom. So I have this poem called Eisenhower. How did the bald skull of Eisenhower enter my life? His head like the moon inside the black and white television sets of the tenements. Caribbean Mountain Spanish phonetics came up with versions of his name. Who could pronounce such letters? To some it sounded like ice in shower. Others said, I in hour, listening to the English as if it were music, you see. In the morning of our immigration, simultaneously, Trio Los Panchos lifted curtains at the Teatro Puerto Rico in the Bronx. His D-Day European theater performances still lingering below and above the Popeye cartoons, animation bombs coming out of the East River, newsreels of a recent past, Europe's barbarous cold murder. In the same time that my grandmother's brown hands sliced tobacco leaves in the tropics. In the apartments of the immigrants, straw hat brown skeletons stood next to wooden houses, flamboyant trees in black and white photos drooping onto the zinc roofs framed in photos upon shelves staring out at the snow. I fancied missiles shooting out of Hopalong Cassidy's black sombrero, cocoa spilling out of an ink jar onto the green, lush forest of my memory. We materialized like wild calabaza foliage into the urban sprawl. Eisenhower was the first face we came upon beaming out of the television, the king of a new land that did not feel like earth, but like boxes of cement, reaching into a dim gray sky. We found so many people already screwed and nailed into the walls, immigrants from Holocaust, barbed wire, terror still in their eyes, and in the nervous lilt of their fragmented English. At first we saw the place without words. It was an image, it was all image and sound, not knowing names of things in their local watts, We ate the scenery with our eyes without pronouncing it properly, practicing the sensation of newly occupied syllables. What was Eisenhower saying coming out of the radio? A line of tanks lined up as words, splattering into our Caribbean ears of amphibian melodies. So many words left their nest, falling into severe industrial gravity. Fruits showed up behind cellophane. Along with the Korean War, thick cans of Rango beer, chocolate syrup in a jar called Bosco, Willie Mays in the outfield, juicy fruit girls from the suburbs, serial novelas through Spanish radio. In the public schools, we did bomb drills, diving under the tables in tune to the sirens of the local fire stations. It was a cinema of arrival. Eisenhower was a star of the movie. As my English got better, the old man disappeared. We saw him no longer. Paris kept arriving from the tropics. Piece by piece, colored feathers into the northern drizzle. Lizards came through bamboo shoots, seeds from the center of guayaba, tamarind of abandoned soil. The city skyline became melted vocabulary, reaching into the sky's efforts to become blue. Well, I'll be gone tomorrow, back to the moisture. There's no moisture up here. My mouth gets really dry reading and even talking, you know.
We keep the moisture in the water.
You keep it in the water? Well, I'll go swimming in the Caribbean for you in a few days from now. But we could do that also in the middle of winter. And I live part of the time in North Africa. Why? Because I met a Moroccan woman sitting on a bus in Sevilla one time, and she asked me in Arabic, and a question, I said, no Arabic. Hablo español, filtered through New York. And then she broke out speaking Spanish, because she was taking Spanish at the Cervantes Center in Rabat. And one thing led to the other, and this was about 12 years ago. And I went to Morocco, and I was able to kiss her, and we fell in love. And we have a son, Mohammed Amin. And we've been together for 11 years now. She's a traditional Muslim woman, but she and I are both secular people. I am both secular in Puerto Rico and in Morocco also. But I practice things that are Christian, and I practice things that are Muslim. I do Ramadan with my people when I'm there. I'm going to do it this August when it comes up again. You can't eat from the time the sun comes up till it goes back down. And you can't smoke cigarettes either if you have any habits like that. And you can't throw no piropos at the woman, no flowers, as we say in the Caribbean. And you cannot have sex. It's very difficult to pass the day there during Ramadan. But once that sun falls down, everything is okay. And the food tastes better. Of course, when you have stall is breakfast. And I've written some poems there in Morocco, and I want to share them with you. Sand. Sahara is the thought of my word. It has been an infinite fire stretching into the firmament meadows. Does the sand continue into the sky? We are less than what we thought. Hungry scorpion desert of your eyes. Laser beam from the stars are the clocks of the night sky. How they arrange themselves between the windows indicates that it is spring. Amazigh, Berbers are the free men and women children of the wind. They have survived the Romans, the Latin fish that came out of the sea as knives. Stay out of the square form of their houses. Stay streetless under the sky, close to the tents, circular upon the sand, cooking lamb within tangines. In the desert, the horizon is our spice. Berber girls are the most beautiful in Morocco. Necklaces of silver like curtains across their cheeks. They move shoulders and bounce buttocks like shaking jello through red argon terrain. She-goats penetrated with old gods, a henna of geometry which is too immense to decipher. Possessed with the Ganawa rhythms, that's why from a distance I just count the sand pebbles jumping with the metallic castanets across the curvature of the dunes where the only flowers are the colorful jalebas of the girls dancing, waving as they are eaten by infinity. Adobe wind. Is it La Llorona that soars in the wind through the window, pressing like a scratch on our moving bones as we pass the Burugreg River, as the bridge that divides Rabat from Saleh, all around seated shadows, clutching bags full of almonds and dates, mint tea? Already I think I am among the Navajo in some Arizona valley. Is it all the same clay flesh geometry I once saw upon a rug hanging in Tucson as evening hugged us? Now we march under the brilliant star sky. Now we march under the brilliant star sky. Red stone monuments darken as the sky turns pink-orange around the edges. We are stopped by a river. We hear the shrill cries of the lady, La Llorona, the same reverberation that fills the Saleh Morocco-bound bus, calling us somewhere else. Well, I think I got to go to sleep because I got to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch the bird, the iron bird, going to Houston to connect with San Juan. So by tomorrow evening, I will be in the sauna. So I leave you with these next two little poems. Inside Caribbean. Okra that slides with malanga as the bacalao, wet with olive oil, pushes into the yuca, still dry. Moving toward the edge of the plate, oh, how delicious it is. A little pornography for you, that was. Yuca. Son de almendras, guayabas, no. Son de almendras, guayabas, no. They are of almonds, guayabas not. They are of almonds, guayabas la. Before the guayaba, almonds raise delight. White dress, song slow. Shoe brush, wood floor, piano changes midair to remind they are of almonds, guayabas not. Strut adjusts, but for the dizzy who want to rumba, don't forget, they are of almonds, guayabas no. Son de almendras, guayabas no. Son de almendras, guayabas no. Vaya. Merci. Shukran, dankan shan, thank you.